It's distressing not to be able to feel and engage the way other people can. There's almost a derealization that happens when the world around you is laughing and crying and emoting and connecting, and you're outside of it. And sometimes nothing feels real. Sometimes you feel disengaged. And so you're sort of looking for really spectacular, big, monumental events that will sort of reconnect you with reality. Like, are you playing a video game or are you really living here? And I think sometimes for people that are antisocial, you look at murder as one of those things. Welcome back to the channel. I've missed you. I apologize for the background. I am traveling. I'm in a hotel, but I wanted to react to the Bryan Kohberger decision to plead guilty. I have been watching the case for a while, and I've had strong opinions about Bryan, but I didn't want to say anything because I didn't know for certain if he was guilty or not. Now that we know, I feel more comfortable sharing my views. And there's really a few things I want to talk about. I want to talk about the diagnosis I think people are getting wrong. I want to talk about his motive. I want to talk about conceptualizing him. And I want to talk about the decision to plead guilty. There's a lot going on here. So before we get into it, if you're new to the channel, my name is David Kohberger. I'm a licensed psychologist, and I use this channel, or on this channel, I use events in pop culture to talk about psychological concepts. First of all, the diagnosis. It's important to note that I have not interacted with Bryan. I can't diagnose from afar, so I'm really just sharing how a psychologist might think about a case like this. Bryan's defense team said that he is diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder and OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. I think that if you look at how he's interacted, I think it makes sense to give him the autism spectrum diagnosis. If you look at how he moves through the world, it feels clear that there is some rigidity in how he operates. There is some sort of patternized behavior. I think he misses social cues. I think if you look at his background, what we know about his childhood, which by the way is very limited, you can see that he is missing social cues or emotionally inept. All of that fits the autism spectrum diagnosis. To be honest, I think it's an easy diagnosis to make. So they're saying he's got autism and he also has obsessive compulsive disorder. Obsessive compulsive disorder is an anxiety disorder. And I think that when we think about it, we go, okay, well, that's that sort of rigid behavior, or he's checking locks or whatever. But what you have to know about it is that somebody is having obsessions about things. Obsessions typically that bad things are going to happen. It's anxiety related. You are worried about external forces that are going to negatively impact you or your family, friends, people you care about. And in an effort to control those external forces, you do things that are repetitive, like the locking or the checking the stove or whatever, right? So there's the compulsion to do something that is typically not even related to the obsession, but there's a compulsion to do things to protect against bad things from happening. The defense is saying, or the defense said before he came out and pled guilty, the defense said, because of his OCD, Bryan did things like clean his car or wear gloves, and so that's the reason why the crime scene, or his vehicle rather, looked the way it did. I think that that is a BS diagnosis. And the reason why I think it's a BS diagnosis, especially when you think about what he did, is if somebody goes out and with premeditation kills 4 people in the way that he did without showing any emotion, it's very easy to make the diagnosis of antisocial personality disorder. That diagnosis is reserved for somebody who has a pervasive pattern of lacking empathy, lacking compassion, having no respect or regard for the rules, pushing back on the system, and not caring how things impact other people. So if somebody has those characteristics, it's almost the opposite characteristics of somebody that has obsessive compulsive disorder. Obsessive compulsive disorder is internalized and fear-based. This is someone who moves through the world with trepidation. Antisocial personality disorder, being a psychopath, is the opposite of that. It's externalized and it's characterized by fearlessness. You don't care about anybody or anything. Rules don't matter. People don't matter. There's no compassion. It's the opposite. You're not worried about things. You don't care about things. You don't feel things. So it's exceptionally rare for OCD and antisocial personality disorder to coexist. So autism makes sense. Antisocial makes sense. OCD does not. So the next question is, how do we understand the case? Why did he do what he did? We don't have a lot of good information about his childhood. I would tell you 99% of the time, someone that has antisocial personality disorder has some kind of traumatic background. There are always people that say, yeah, there's this one guy who had a really healthy childhood and he turned out to be antisocial. My kind of standard reaction to that is, prove it. You don't know what their childhood really was like. You don't know what really happened to them. I don't know what Bryan's upbringing was, but I do know that he had difficulty in school as a consequence of having Asperger's. I know that he was bullied in school. I don't know what kind of traumatic effect that had on him. My guess would be that somewhere at home, with family, at school, somewhere there was trauma. I would also tell you, having worked with people that have autism and people that are antisocial, in both cases, there is a sense, a recognition that they are not moving through the world like everybody else. There is oftentimes a curiosity about how different they are. I think this is the reason why Bryan wanted to major in psychology, why he wanted to get an advanced degree in psychology and criminology. He wanted to figure himself out. I don't think I buy the narrative that he went to school for the purpose of learning from the greats and learning how to commit crimes and not getting in trouble. I don't think that at the beginning it was about planning. I think at the beginning it was about figuring out what was wrong with him and why he ticked the way that he did. I can't imagine that if you have that mindset, it's easy then to learn from the cases. So I know that he had a special interest in serial killers. He had a special interest in professors that studied serial killers. I can imagine that it transferred where he did learn how to clean a crime scene and do those kinds of things in an effort not to get caught. And of course, the question everybody's asking is, well, what's the motive? I can't figure out why he chose the people he chose. My gut reaction would be that they seemed like a fun group of people that were emotionally adept, socially savvy, very connected, people that could move through the world in a way that was very different than Bryan. And my guess would be that he was maybe attracted to them or maybe jealous of them, but he wanted into that group and he knew that he could never get there. This is total speculation on my part, but that's my assumption for why he initially started looking at that apartment and those people, for all the weeks in which he drove around and planned out his murder. But of course, the question is, why kill anybody? And again, this is pure speculation on my part, but I can tell you that people that are antisocial can be frustrated by the fact that it's distressing not to be able to feel and engage the way other people can. There's almost a derealization that happens when the world around you is laughing and crying and emoting and connecting, and you're outside of it. And sometimes nothing feels real. Sometimes you feel disengaged. And so you're sort of looking for really spectacular, big, monumental events that will sort of reconnect you with reality. Like, are you playing a video game or are you really living here? And I think sometimes for people that are antisocial, you look at murder as one of those things. What will it feel like for me to kill somebody? What would it feel like to go through this process? How do I engage myself? So it's sort of this like interest in it, but for the purpose of engaging in life. I know it sounds so sick, but that's my guess as to why he was interested in murder in the first place. So there's a narrative online that says that he was sort of challenging himself to beat the system. He had learned about criminal justice, he'd learned about forensics, and he wanted to prove that he was smarter than the machine, the system around him, because he went home afterwards and he gave a thumbs up to his camera, took a selfie, he drove past the murder scene afterwards to see what was going on, and there was sort of this gloating behavior that was happening. It could be that. I also think it's possible that sort of the thumbs up was performative to himself. Hey, I did this thing. I think also going back and looking at the murder scene could be part of that, trying to make it real. I don't know exactly what the psychology is there, partially gloating, but partially also I think you complete the murder and then he wants to feel all of the emotions that he imagined he might feel as a consequence of that. Like, as I'm talking about, we're talking about a deranged person. This is a pervasive personality disorder. This is a very, very sick human. But I think that's the reason why he's engaging in those behaviors. So then the last question is, well, why did he plead guilty? Why did he not go through the trial? And I think the answer is self-preservation. I read something somewhere where they were saying, oh, well, I think he was trying to protect his parents, or he didn't want to go through the trauma of the trial. I don't think my guess would be he's not trying to protect anybody, because I don't think he has the emotional bandwidth to want to do that. But I can't imagine that he doesn't want to die. I can imagine that he's happy, relatively happy to go live in prison. He knows he's got caught, the game's up. And I think he's just trying to streamline things. I don't think that there's not a benevolent bone in his body. And to be honest, I think it's so fucked up that he's able to just plead guilty and it all goes away. I know for the families of the people he killed, they wanted to see him on trial. They want to see the evidence. They want to get at the motive. We all want to know why he did what he did, and we all want to hold him accountable. And instead, he just fast-tracked it all, avoids a trial, avoids the death penalty. It feels like he's getting away with an incredibly heinous crime, and there's nothing we can do about it. So I think it sucks, but that's how I would conceptualize it. Let me know what you think in the comments below.